Welcome to Seller Sessions. I am your host today, Sharon Evan, and today I have the beautiful, the talented, the smart Destany from BetterAMS. Hey, Destany.
Hello.
How you doing?
Amazing. Happy to be here.
I am so excited for this call. We had a little bit of a chat before we went live because I was telling you how I don't usually sort of like mingle with the PPC people. So I'm really excited to have you on today. So thank you for coming on. I know you've been many times on Seller Sessions, just not when I've interviewed you. So welcome.
This is going to be legendary. Like I'm so excited.
This is going to be like so awesome. And for the people who don't know you, can you give a quick introduction to who you are, what you do, and all that kind of lovely stuff?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Destany Wishon. I am co-founder and CEO of BetterAMS. We are strictly an Amazon advertising agency. I spend a lot of time in the space just kind of trying to help out and provide thoughtful insights, something that we just talked about. There's no one size fits all solution to PPC. So I feel like I try to really push like different thought leadership in the space and truly just help everyone out there that needs it.
I don't know if I lost you for a second or if it was me or you. There you go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, cool. All right, cool. So we were saying earlier, and I do want to give an intro to this because I think that it's important. We were talking about this earlier. Today, guys, we're going to be speaking about sponsored display ads, right? And I'm going to hand it over to Destany really shortly to explain it. But I want to say a couple of things, right, before we do. So before I brought you on, Danny was like, you know, there's super advanced people that listen here and et cetera. And I was like, Danny, a lot of like newer sellers listen as well, et cetera. So the difference between us is, and why I've always been sort of careful, you know me, I'm like no BS, very transparent and say it how it is. So I come from an Amazon seller's background, right? Where like I sell on Amazon and then I coach as well. And then you come from more of the agency side, working with like huge brands, some of the biggest brands on Amazon. And you work a lot with brands at scale, right? Whereas I work more with people that are like 5, 6, almost 7-figure sellers. And then they sort of move to you guys sort of thing. So what I think is important for anyone listening to us is to remember, like you said, that there is no one way to do Amazon, right? Maybe they heard someone else on the podcast say one thing and then they'll hear us say another thing. There's no one way. There isn't a right or wrong. There are just different approaches when it comes to PPC because it's such a broad subject, right? And there's so many different products and there's so many different ways to approach it. And I felt like it was important to say that before we begin. Awesome. So, Destany, can you first of all tell everyone what is a sponsored display ad? And then we'll move on from there.
Of course. So, sponsored display ads, you know, at the simplest are the ads that are showing up directly below the buy box and the bullet points. There's 2 placements that show up right there. And that's typically kind of the simplest explanation for the sellers that are very familiar with how sponsored ads works. Now, the long-term goal for sponsored display is to be a traditional display ad type. So for all the marketers out there, or anyone who's worked with DSP, that's where we're seeing all the new and shiny things being rolled out under your Seller Central. But at the end of the day, if you go to create campaign, you'll see sponsored products, sponsored brands, and sponsored display. The sponsored display one is typically showing up again below the buy box, below the bullet points as a really easy and convenient ad type. Now, the fun thing about it is depending on what targeting types you choose, that ad can also show up off platform, which is where it gets exciting because as we know, sponsored ads in general are getting more competitive and more expensive. So if we're able to diversify and show an ad off platform, it could make things a little bit cheaper.
And then what about the search page? Like the search page before you actually hit on a product? Are there placements for display ads there as well?
So there are certain placements that we can see. They typically show up on the left side of the page it's called a skyscraper, I think. The skyscraper ad. If it's a really cool creative ad, that's typically DSP. Directly below it, there's typically an ad that looks just like a sponsored ad. You know, it's got the little buy box button, price, reviews, things like that. That's typically sponsored display. One thing I think that you and I actually talked about 2 weeks ago is there's always confusion on these placements. All you have to do is preview any ad type and you can see the placement in all the different sizes, and Amazon will tell you exactly where it's typically going to show up. So that's always a quick tip I kind of recommend for people who are confused.
So when you're talking about preview, we're talking about you can preview when you create the ad, and then you can also go in and see the creative, and then you can change. There's like a little drop down box and you can change and see every single one. Something cool about display ads, and I actually think I learned this from you like about a year ago, maybe. Well, I think I only noticed it when you once spoke about it. And then I was like, holy crap, that's so awesome. Was that if you have a coupon on your product, it will also show up in a sponsored display ad, which is like super cool. I can't remember what it was that you and I spoke about like 2 weeks ago. It was the fact that somebody said, what kind of ad is this? And it showed the coupon. And then I asked you and I said, if it shows a coupon, doesn't it have to be a display ad? And then we had that whole conversation about it.
Yes, yeah. And it was the placement, I think, that caused a lot of confusion because it was the one showing up directly below the buy box. And I have a share screen that we can probably dive into in a little bit, walking through that. But it is so powerful because it is the absolute first ad someone sees when they're looking at any other product. So you really have the opportunity to win new market share, because if your product has a coupon and is cheaper, someone's going to see their price and then your price and click on your ad.
And then just so I know we're focusing on sponsored display ad, but this is just something that sometimes people don't understand. You could be showing up on your competitor's product listing, like their page, and you would have a few different placements. So you would have a sponsored display ad, and then you could have a sponsored product ad, and then you could even have a sponsored brand ad at the bottom. And if you're really, really good, you could even have a post, like Amazon post. And then you've got like 4 or 5 different placements on like one product page of like your competitors. So I think that's something amazing that a lot of people don't think about, right? Where it's all about real estate, having as much real estate as possible, is combining those ads as well can be amazing. So who can use sponsored display ads? What kind of sellers can use sponsored display ads?
You do need to be brand registered for sponsored display ads, which is, kind of a pain. And I think you posted this amazing post about brand registry, and like, get on it. We have more ad types. Amazon's pushing us to have more creative control with sponsored display. We're able to write copy similar to a headline search ad, which makes it super powerful. But in general, get your brand registry.
So if you're listening to us and you're not brand registered, you're not going to have access to sponsored display ads. So you have to be brand registered to actually have access to it. Now, within sponsored display ads, there are so many different options, right? There's product targeting, and then there's searches or audience targeting. So could you come in and explain the difference of each one? And then after that, we can possibly also talk about, because my experience as a seller who uses display ads, it's either like amazing and I've got like ACOS of like 2.8%, like something crazy, like crazy amounts, or it's like a disaster. And I've never found anything in between. Like there isn't, for me, in my experience, there hasn't been, it's either amazing, it just is like, I'm blown away, or it's like the worst thing in the world, I can't believe I even did it type of thing. So maybe later we can also talk about at what stage do you use what type of sponsored display ad as well. So what are the different sponsored, like the targeting options that you have under sponsored display ads?
Yeah, of course. So when you go to create your ad, it's going to be similar. You're going to add your campaign name, your budget. One thing to note is Amazon autofills a $100 a day budget. They don't really do that for any other campaign type. You probably want to lower that just in case you like start hemorrhaging money. After you set your budget, though, you're going to add an ASIN. And then after your ASIN, it's going to ask you, your targeting type. So there's product targeting and audience targeting. And both of those have different options under them. But put simply, product targeting is the exact same targeting you see on sponsored products and sponsored brands. Once you select product targeting, it's going to ask you if you want to choose a category or if you want to add individual products. And Sharon, like, you had one of the best statements I've heard in the space, and it's typically you need to know the goals and expectations of your campaign. Every single campaign needs to have a goal. So I like to have really, really granular control over everything I'm targeting. So I typically recommend for new sellers or people new to sponsored display, always start with product targeting. And then beyond that, select individual products. Because when you select individual products that you want to target with this ad, you can then control the bid of those individual products. So it's similar to when you're running keyword targeting or sponsored product targeting. You have the opportunity to control your bid over every single product you're targeting. And as you guys know, the number one key to success with, PPC is bid optimization. So if I can control the bid over all those products, I can make my ad successful. Now, if I want to go a little bit broader, I'm going to select category targeting. So targeting, product targeting, and then category. And what that's going to do is Amazon's typically going to auto recommend, a category that's incredibly relevant to my products. I can select that. But what that's really similar to is an auto campaign where Amazon thinks they know your category. They're going to show your ad over every single product in the category. And it's just a lot broader. The biggest downside to sponsored display category targeting is I cannot control the bid to all of my products. Yeah. So it's just casting a wider net. It's broader. It's more about brand awareness. It's targeting everyone in my category rather than just the products I chose. So if you move.
When you spoke about individual products, then that is you hand picking which products you're going to target. And then depending on where you are at, like whether you're at launch or you're at scale, etc., you would then pick out, I have a system of where I pick out products that I'm going to target specifically for how I believe or have proven to convert on those specific ASINs. And when you're at launch, you don't necessarily know yet, right? So then you got to be very strategic about how you pick out those specific products. And then just a question, because I know the answer, but I think it's important for people to understand as well. Can you have multiple categories under the same display ad? Like, can you pick?
You can. Yes. So I think that's where people actually run into an issue is they try to stack a ton of categories. So if I'm selling a dog toy, my category, I could select dog toy, and then I could set dog products. And what's going to happen is that's a huge audience and I have no control. So I'm showing my dog toy to everyone, pit bulls, also to like smaller dogs, and then like a huge wide net that I have no control over. So that's where people run into issues. They get excited because of what's possible and they target way too broad.
Yeah. If someone did want to do that, when would you suggest that they do it? Like at scale, like brand awareness, like at what stage would you suggest that they do that? I'm asking these questions for the people that are listening to us and are saying to themselves, oh, I'm going to go try that. And they shouldn't, you know what I mean? Or the people that like, they should. So
always start with product targeting. Always start with product targeting because you can pull your search term report and scrape every single ASIN you've already converted on. Auto campaigns show ASINs in your search term report. Sponsored product targeting campaigns show ASINs in your search term report. You have the data already. You just want to take that data and put it into a sponsored display campaign because like you mentioned, it's proven it converts. Now, if you're wanting to collect data, you can still run category targeting. I probably want to do it under sponsored display because if you pull any reporting in sponsored display, it's not going to tell you what all you've converted on a category. Sponsored products does. If you run sponsored product targeting, category targeting, you can then scrape your search term report and get all those ASINs. So don't start unless you're looking to scale and grow brand awareness. The return on is not going to be as good as product targeting. That being said, Amazon algorithm is pretty smart. Their AI is getting better. Category targeting is getting better, but
you can also refine. Yeah, which if anyone that follows me knows that like I don't trust Amazon for anything. So can you tell the people a little bit about the refine button? Because you can use the refine button to, which a lot of people don't know about, which is, so tell them a little about it.
Of course. So if you go to select any category targeting, you have the option to refine that audience that you're targeting. So one of the cool things you can refine by is brands. You only want to target certain brands in the space, or you can refine by price range. I only want to target people that are more expensive than me because that means when my ad shows up below, it's going to be cheaper and it's going to be a competitive advantage. You can refine by reviews. I only want to target people with less reviews than me or poor quality reviews than me, I think is actually what it is. And then in the toy category, you can also refine by ages. And then you also have prime eligibility versus, eligible versus non-eligible. The only thing to note there is if you get really, really precise with your refining, you're only going to be targeting maybe 10 to 15 products and you're not going to get as many impressions. But the impressions you do get, you have a competitive advantage over and they're going to convert better.
Do you, at the agency, do you guys use Refine at all?
We do. Similar to what you mentioned, if you probably like don't want to stack multiple categories, we try to create specific campaigns where we know our goals. So I will refine category targeting, only targeting, brands that have a higher price point than me. And I'll put like price in the campaign name so I can see that. Create another campaign targeting the exact same category audience, but only targeting people with, poorer reviews than me, things like that.
Yeah, I do the same thing both in sponsored products. So sponsored products, like product targeting, and then sponsored display product targeting as well, because it's two different things. But I think the refine button, I don't remember when it was added, but I think for someone like me who is not very trusting of Amazon, and I try and control as much as I can, and it's debatable of whether it's a good strategy or not, but it works for me. I think that refine button is, I don't know, for me, I think it's really good for us to be able to use. So that was the product targeting side of things. And then the other option is
audiences.
Yeah.
Which,
so then
just a background, audiences is super new. We have had product targeting since 2017. So it's a very known and proven ad type. Yeah, it used to only be available for vendors under the AMS side of like old school advertising. So that's where it's like, as you know, like when Amazon rolls something out, they rolled out like really broad targeting, like figure it out, good luck. But something that's like known and been around for a lot of years, it's typically been optimized much better. Like that could be completely fake news, but that's just what I think on my end. So audience targeting is the new one.
Yeah. And then what do we have under audience targeting? Because there's three different options there.
So not the newest one, the one that I think people are most familiar with that rolled out in like the last 6 months is the ability to run remarketing. So it's called Views Remarketing. And then under that, you're allowed to select either remarketing your own products or remarketing similar to your advertised products. Key things to note there, and this is really deep in the weeds, it's a 30-day look back window. So you're retargeting everyone who either viewed your product or a competitor product in the last 30 days. Other thing to note is Amazon negates people who have purchased products in your category. So I was excited for this because I was like, consumables are going to be amazing. I could serve constant ads to everyone who purchased my, deodorant is going to repurchase, but it doesn't work like that.
So did that used to be a year, 360 days? Has it always been 30 days?
On DSP, that's what it is. Like you have the ability to control if it's all the way back to 365 days or 15 days, 30 days, 45 days, but only 30 days on our end.
Okay, so yeah, I can see it now. I think maybe I didn't pay attention to that, to the 30-day look back. So it's 30 days for people. Actually, that's great for people so I sell one of the niches that I sell in is anti-aging products, and it's products that you have to continue buying like every 30 to 60 days. So for someone like me, display ads, the audiences specifically works amazing because of the fact that these are people that even they may have purchased from us though like 35 days ago, or not 35, but over, like ages ago, or even 6 months ago, and they would come back and buy us again. So yeah. And then under that, I've got it up here just so that I don't forget. Under the views remarketing and Amazon audiences, I think you were the first person I sent a message to, if I'm not mistaken. And I was like, I was just on a coaching call, and then I just saw the new Amazon audiences like option. So should we wait to talk about that, or should we talk about it now? I think we should talk about it now because we're talking about audiences right now.
This is new. So this is crazy exciting. I think I have been running it since the 15th, which is the first day it was rolled out. So 7 days. We're a week in.
Yeah. So can you tell us all about it?
Instead of just hyping it up.
Tell us what you know. Tell us what you've already seen. Tell us what you know, and explain it as well if possible, because it can be confusing.
So we are moving, pretty far up the funnel here with this new targeting type, because not only are we allowed to select products and categories, we're allowed to target audiences now. So if we just click through, you'll see in-market, lifestyle, what's the other two? Interest and life events.
Yeah.
And these are really, really broad. I mean, if you're just clicking through, you're going to be like, should I target the baby category in its whole entirety? Like if I'm selling a diaper, yeah, I probably want to target the baby category, but that's very, very broad. So know your goals. If you're going that broad, you're going to have very poor click-through rate and conversion rate, but everyone's going to be seeing, your products. So yeah, brand awareness is there. One thing I highly recommend doing is searching within those audiences. So they have a search function that search for Amazon audiences. That's going to allow you to get much, much more precise instead of just trying to click down all these drop-down menus of what you think's relevant. I would talk, like right now I'm going to type in dog toys. And I'm going to actually be able to select an in-market segment for dog toys, dog squeak toys, dog chew toys, dog rope toys. That is so much more precise than targeting every single person in the dog category. So then I would do the same thing with category. I'd find the audiences that resonate most with my brand and target them precisely.
I'm seeing here, like under, for example, like life events, there's, for example, new parent, right? Which for one of my brands, I only just noticed this. I'll be honest, I haven't like hardcore played around with it. Or getting married, right? You've got like getting married and things like that. So yes, it's still super broad, but it's also exactly your buyer avatar. So
exactly.
What would you do in that state? Let's just make up a product, for example. Let's just say I sell let's go with getting married. So let's say that I sell a product. What kind of product do people need when they get married?
Let's
say getting married. Okay, let's say a bridal product. Okay, a bridesmaid for a bridesmaid. Okay, a bridesmaid product. Okay, and let's just say a bridesmaid proposal box. Okay, because I've spoken about that product so many times. So bridesmaid proposal box. Would you then do the getting married option if you're at scale? So you've got a lot of reviews. It's a good product, good selling product. Would you use that as like getting married? Would you add that?
I probably would. And the key piece here is you can control the bid on these interest levels. It is a cost per click model. We can control the bid. So I have an example up here of kind of one of my longest running campaigns, which is 7 days for this. And it has 587 clicks and 10 orders. That is a terrible conversion rate.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrible. But the ACOS is 25% because I have a 19-cent bid.
Wow.
So yeah, I don't know why it's getting impressions. I can't get those types of impressions in product targeting or category targeting because I'm only fighting for, 2 placements. So at the end of the day, you can, I like starting with a high bid because I'm going to get traffic immediately and optimize based off data. If you start with a low bid, you may not get impressions and you kind of have to work your way up. But at the end of the day, since we can control the bid for the cost per click of these ad types, I think that we have more control than what we do with like a DSP CPM model.
Yeah, I'm seeing, so I didn't really like go through all of these, but I'm clicking on some of them. So for example, like lifestyle, there's like a whole bunch of stuff here, like family, travel, etc. I think that for some products, you could potentially do really well with this, especially like seeing that like new parents or recently acquired a vehicle, right? That's like or a new pet owner. If you sell, I don't know. I think there's like some awesome options here.
I love the pet ones.
Yeah, the new pet owner. What else is there apart from new people who started owning a pet recently? How does Amazon know this stuff about people? Can you share that with the audience?
This is always a real fun conversation because all the sellers out there, everyone managing sponsored ads, like we get no information at all. Like, you run ads on Facebook and you're like, oh, I can control like the age, the income, everything. And then we get to Amazon. It's like, oh, I can tell what someone searched. Like, that's it. But they have that info and they give it out on DSP. And that's actually where I became familiar with this style of display advertising, because you can log into DSP, and for any of our products, I can see what the repurchase rate is, what the age, what the income, what the sex, all of those details. So Amazon has all of it. And, similar to like Facebook and Apple and all this cookie gate stuff going on, Amazon owns that data. They just choose not to give it out. So the fact that they're starting to give us some of those insights is really cool and exciting. And they've basically mentioned that display is going to continue to grow. They want that data to be accessible for everyone, because sponsored ads are limited. We only have a certain amount of placements on the page. So when more people are coming and entering the market, it just gets more expensive. You can't diversify that. So I think Amazon's going to launch more display, give us more audience insights to target. So that way it's like less competitive per se.
You do have some of that information though if you're brand registered and brand analytics.
Yes.
Some of the information that you just spoke about. So then would you say that it would be a good idea for someone like a serious seller? When I say serious seller, I mean people that actually look at these reports, because a lot of sellers don't, that it would be a great thing to do to then look at your demographics under brand analytics.
100%, especially if we're looking at like in-market segments of what makes the most sense. We're going to get more data. And I think the general direction we're seeing in Amazon is they want us to have more of a brand rather than just throwing up random PL products. Know your audience, build that avatar, know who you're targeting. So that way we can really take advantage of these things.
For anyone who doesn't know, I have a Know Your Buyer Avatar on YouTube video, which is actually, I have to say, and this isn't just because it's my video, it's one of the best videos I've ever made about understanding who, because here's the thing in PPC, and we were talking about this earlier, and I said to you, and this is not about you, this is about others. I said to you, my issue with PPC agency people that speak is, and I'm really careful the way I say this on this podcast, is that there sometimes information that's put out there is just so broad. And someone like me who is a seller plus works, like I coach people, I've been exposed to so many different products, and there is no one thing for every single product. And not only that, sometimes somebody is selling a product where they've repurposed it from one type of product to a target, like they're focusing only on a very specific niche, a very specific buyer avatar. And I just find that when you really know your buyer avatar, you also really know what kind of keywords to go after, especially at launch. Now you work with mostly at scale, right? Or at least with very big brands. So it's different when they launch a product compared to a new seller launching a product. Would that be a correct statement to say?
Pretty fair. Yeah.
Pretty fair. Okay. So I feel like with the newer sellers, it is so, not newer, everyone, it is so important to know who your buyer avatar is. Like, it is so important to know who you're actually selling to. And I mean, I think lately, at least through Clubhouse, I have heard more people speak about it. Everyone talks about it differently. Some people call it like a buyer persona and like I call it a buyer avatar, but I just think that understanding who you're selling to is crucial. For like, how do you think that affects PPC in general? Like, I'm going off subject on display ads, but how do you think that affects PPC in general? Like, I have a lot of respect for you. So I think that what you have to say about that subject would be, everyone should listen.
Well, thank you. I think people get wrapped up in tools and tech. Yeah. I think people want to use all of the different keyword tools out there and combine this list of 3,000 keywords that they want to target. Because yes, it relates to their product. At the end of the day, I always recommend when I'm launching for any of our personal products, I can typically sit down and come up with the 10 most relevant keywords without a single tool. You know what people are searching that are going to drive them to your listing. Yes, you're going to find some really cool long tails through auto campaigns and all the tools out there, but know who your buyer avatar is. And there's small distinctions you can make on your listing to make some product convert better. For example, if I'm selling a dog toy, I can add, certain details in my listing that are going to make that dog toy better for small dogs, which is going to give me a competitive advantage. Even though any dog can use my dog toy and they don't really give a crap, I can make my listing more, better for like that type of audience.
Appealing for that specific audience. Yeah, appealing for that specific audience.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I live and breathe exactly what you're talking about. So I'm so passionate about knowing your audience and about all the way back to product, like to selecting your product, right? Like, because here, I always say this, again, you're from the agency side, I'm from like the coaching side, but I always say, and I think you'll agree with this, I could have the best freaking PPC like strategy in the world, but if you've got a shitty product, it's not going to work. Like no PPC agency, no best PPC person in the world, no one's going to be able to help you if you have a really, really shitty product. Or if you like, or for example, I'll give an example only because he doesn't sell this anymore. I had a client come to me once and he was selling a blow up boxing bag, right? Now, I come from a martial arts background, but even if I didn't, I would have been able to know this, and you would have probably as well. A blow-up boxing bag, okay, as an inflatable, is not for adults, okay? It is not for adults. And all of his images and all of his keywords, everything he was targeting was for adults. And I was like, dude, like, I can tell you, like, and he was not converting. He was getting clicks and he was not converting. I was like, your product is a toy. Like, it's for kids. We redid his entire listing. We redid his entire keywords, everything. Started going after like the boxing bag for kids, inflatable boxing, but for kids, for children, for girls, for boys, keywords, and it changed the whole thing around. And that was, and the problem was he didn't understand his buyer avatar from day one, because if you would have done more research about it, you would have understood that like adults cannot punch an inflatable boxing bag. It's not like, you know, so that's just a really quick example of, because you can like somebody could have come with you for that. And you could have done the best freaking like PPC stuff for it, and it just wouldn't have converted. It has nothing to do with you as an agency or whatever. It's just not targeting the right audience.
You know what the most enlightening moment for me was? And we talked about this, like we've been in the space for so long, you start seeing patterns, you just understand things a little bit more when you see large data sets and you get to consult with so many different clients. There's so many discrepancies. But if you run a Facebook ad, you have control over the creative and the copy and the audience. So that Facebook ad can influence a conversion rate. They can add an incredible video, things like that. If I am running a sponsored product ad, I have zero control over the conversion rate. The listing needs to convert. The ad is not going to influence anyone to convert. I can't add copy that's going to make someone convert or change the image I'm running in a sponsored ad. So driving more traffic to a crappy listing is going to do nothing for it. Like it's got to convert. And the advertiser or whoever you're working with, they can't influence the conversion rate of your organic listing. So if you're having issues with your unit session percentage, do not try to run more traffic to it. That's not going to do you any good unless it's maybe a review issue and you need more reviews. At the end of the day, you have to have a great converting listing before you try to drive more people to that listing.
100%. I think it's something really important that a lot of people don't take into consideration. There was at some stage, I said to people, if you sell a Milestone blanket or beeswax food wrap, do not come to me. I can't help you. Like at some stage, like last year, I actually put out a bit, like I made a like post saying, if you sell these products, don't come to me. All right. So that was the views remarketing Amazon audience. And then we've got searches and purchases. So can you tell us, was there anything else you wanted to add to the audiences part?
Nope. That was pretty much it.
And then we spoke about also the new Amazon audience, which is something that came out around, you were saying it came out around 7 days ago, which is what we just spoke about like the in-marketing, the interest, the lifestyle, the life events. If you have access to display ads, like literally just go look it up and you'll see what we're talking about. Cool. And then that was for views remarketing, which is on a CPC level, like cost per click. And then we have searches. So can you explain to everyone what searches are?
Are you, out of curiosity, are you in your account right now looking at searches?
Yeah, I am.
So that's really funny. Searches and purchases was beta rolled out probably 12 months ago, maybe a little bit longer. I would say 90% of accounts no longer have it. So we still have it. I can see it
right there.
Yeah, we still have it in 1 or 2 accounts, but it is like the most niche beta rollout ever. Like they never fully rolled it out. Yeah, so it's super dope that you still have it.
I mean, I can log out and log into another one of my accounts and see if it's still there if you want me to, but I can see it here. So what are you saying that most people see that
most people will see, and I recently did a YouTube video and I had 4 different accounts open and all 4 accounts had different targeting options under sponsored display. And it was this enlightening moment of like, you know, we're trying to preach the good word on sponsored display here. That was really cheesy. and no one has alignment. So if I'm screen sharing something in my account and you don't even see that in your account, that's not going to do you any good. So I like did a walkthrough of all these different options. But searches and purchases are typically what's under audiences, but then they don't see the audience targeting is how it was initially rolled out. What's cool about it is searches is actually fully CPM. So it is the only like targeting type that's like 100%, I believe, fully CPM. And we actually have control over the reach. So when we set a bid for cost per impression, it shows us our projected reach. It's really cool. I love both of them. Searches is probably one of the broadest that we can get from what I've seen in terms of like brand awareness, because it is a cost per impression model. So what Amazon's doing is just showing you a ton of impressions and being like, here, are you happy? 98,000 people saw your ad. No one may have clicked on it, but they saw it. So
can you explain for the people that don't know, because I've had to explain this a lot of times in the past, the difference between impressions and reach?
Yeah. So impressions and reach and PPC.
And PPC. Like impressions, like when you see it has the impressions on the top right, and then next to it has reach, but they're 2 different things, right?
Yes.
So can you explain what that means?
So when you go to select like searches, it's going to show you that the bid model is CPM, which is cost per 1,000 impressions. So you get charged every time your ad gets shown to 1,000 different people. I enjoy CPM models because it's more traditional to regular marketing, but people can view your ad and it doesn't really mean anything for you. So you're just getting charged when people view. Pay per click's cool because we get charged whenever someone clicks on my ad, which means that they have intent. If you're on Amazon and someone clicks on your ad, they probably have some form of interest in your product. If you don't convert, that's on your listing. But with the CPM model, you're kind of going after a different goal. You want people to be aware of your product, to see your ad, things like that. And then that reach they're going to give you is like how many people are actually going to get shown your ad more than likely if you bid high enough on that cost per impression.
Cool. I'm like really surprised by the fact that you said that so do people still see what I'm seeing? Do other people still see the searches option or not?
Typically not.
Nowhere?
I would say 90% of our accounts no longer have it. That's across 45 accounts.
Out of interest, people that are watching us right now, we've got quite a few people here. If you're on your account, it would be interesting to see how many people still have access to that. I honestly can't remember from coaching calls recently.
Can I share my screen real quick to show?
Yeah, go for it. Please do.
Let's see. Share screen. Oh, never mind. I won't be able to.
Why? No
I have a new Mac open and I don't have accessibility for sharing screen StreamYard
preferences.
But I can drop a screenshot later.
Okay, cool. So for the people that do have searches, that were searches, and then there's also purchases for the people that do have purchase, because I do purchases. So
where purchases is great is for your products. Anytime someone is repurchasing something, it does amazing because you want them to continuously like rebuy it. Where it doesn't do well is if I'm advertising a $300 TV. If they buy it once, they don't want to buy it again. So just know your products. If you have a product that people continuously repurchase, this does amazing. Now I'll say, I don't think this is in the majority of accounts, so don't get super stoked and excited. But know that if it's being beta tested over 12 months, it's probably going to be rolled out in the near future. And this is really different from remarketing. So when you see audiences and remarketing, this is completely different. This is advertising people who have purchased your product. Remarketing is advertising to people who have not purchased your product.
Yeah. I'm just like trying to click on, it's not coming up on my other computer here. I'm trying to click on and see what my best performing display ads are. This is an account where the products are, you need to keep buying these products every like 60 days in order for them to work. So, but it's not going into it. So maybe by the time we move on to the next thing, it'll get into it. Cool. So that was there anything we missed on the sponsored display side of things? I feel like we spoke about the product targeting. We spoke about audiences. Yeah, we spoke about that. So I do have some questions because I'd love to pick your brain, and then I'll ask my questions after because there's people here asking questions. So let's acknowledge the people here. So first of all, Mohammed said, "Oh, Destiny, you're my favorite," and then he also said, "I religiously follow your LinkedIn. You guys are very informative." And then Otto, it's coming up now, said, "How are you solving the problem while optimization because of the missing on and off Amazon separation of the reported data?"
I mean, since we don't have the option, there's nothing that we can really do here. Otto, I know you're incredibly familiar with the differences in DSP and sponsored display because we've had many conversations about this, but I'm only concerned with what I control, and what I can control is the bid. So I'm making sure we're separating everything out, being incredibly granular, and only optimizing off the bids. I'm assuming we'll get that because we do have that control elsewhere. But when you start breaking out sponsored display into multiple media types, it's going to be very, very complex for sellers. So I don't know how much control Amazon will give us over that. I'm assuming they're just going to let their AI optimize it for us.
Okay, and then Nir said, he must have said this where we spoke about something, which I don't remember what it was right this minute. We were playing with it. It is still just okay for us. However, as we started, it will be better and better. I'm guessing you spoke about the new audiences.
That's actually a great call out here. I think something super important with Amazon is I'll often see people in groups be like, "Oh, I tested that. It was shit. Don't ever run it at anyone." And I'm like, man, that's such bad advice because it is so different for your product. And the beautiful thing about Amazon is there's no minimums. So we can start a campaign with $5 a day and a 17-cent bid, and it's not going to hurt us. So if there's anything new that's rolled out, I highly recommend know your goals, test it, start small, and then make data-based optimizations as you scale.
So Nir, just because I know who he is, Nir is that his wife, Maya, is like also really, really good with PPC, and they also have an agency. But I know that the brains of the PPC is his wife, and which is Maya. But yeah, they're really awesome as well. Okay, I'm so hoping that I'm pronouncing this correctly. Milos said, "What is the most effective sponsored display ad for you? How do you bid on it? Is there an option strategy to have a low bid and high placement?" I'm going to let you answer and then I'll pitch in if I need to.
I personally would say the most effective is sponsored display product targeting individual products because I have the most control. So anytime I have more control over something, I typically like it more in Amazon. Why that's amazing is because I can select the exact products I want to target. So one thing we'll do is I have a dog toy. I will type in the word dog toy and scrape every ASIN on page 1 and target them with an ad. And then I'll select, hey, I know I have a competitive advantage over these 20 products, and I'll add it to a campaign, and then I can control the bid over all of those products. After that, I would say category targeting. After that, this audience targeting is amazing, and it's going to get to the point of being incredibly valuable and probably more effective than anything else. But for right now, it's just new. So anything new, it takes a while to figure out. So play around with it with low bids, low budgets. How much do I bid on it? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it. No, keep going. How much do you bid on it? Depends on your niche.
I start pretty conservative with my bids for a new ad type. So maybe $1. And then if you don't get impressions after 48 hours, increase your bid. If you do get impressions and you don't convert, decrease your bid. Just kind of walk that line and figure out what you need to do and what data is going to push you to make a decision.
I've got one of my dashboards open on my other computer, and I can see that I don't know exactly which audience one this is. I've got to download a report to see, but I can see that like I've got an ACOS of 2.67 and then an ACOS of or ROS. You talk about ROAS, so 37.4 and then 11.1 of product targeting is the 37.41. And display ads, and then the audience one is the 11.11, which is a 9.01 ACOS. So for me, in this specific product, because we were talking about this earlier, And I was telling you that I don't know how I can put display ads into portfolios. So what I do, which maybe you can tell your little hack in a second, what I do is I name my display ad specifically to product name and then display ad and then the purpose of that display ad so that I can quickly use the search button so I know for like how I'm doing for that specific product. So it looks like also for us, like product targeting really is the best option here. Like 2.67% ACOS is like, I don't know any other campaigns with
all you
like,
need.
It's just like, it's crazy. And I can see the CPC here for that is 0.67, which I don't think I pay that low anywhere on these. These are like anti-aging products that are like really competitive. So yeah. Anyway, that was that. Can you tell everyone your little hack for getting display ads into portfolios?
Yeah. So I think Joe Shellerud taught me this. If you go to select a campaign with the little square boxes next to a campaign, select a sponsored product campaign, and then at the top, it'll say move to portfolio, click that button, and then go click your sponsored display campaign and click the checkbox. It will allow you to then typically move it to the portfolio. If you select sponsored display first and move to portfolio, it's not going to let you do anything. But if you select the sponsored products first, select move to portfolio, and then add your sponsored display, for some reason, it typically adds it. If it doesn't, just try a few times and it usually goes through.
And then if it doesn't work for you at all, I would just name it the way that I said, which is in general how I name anyway, which is like the product name.
Yeah. Nomenclature, I would say, is one of the most important things you can do if you have multiple products in PPC to make it more valuable.
Yeah. Okay, more questions. Rosalind said, hold on, it's coming up. Whoa, I'm gone through the FT course, fabulous, and another course. I'm learning so much in this chat. Your analysis and tips and know your avatar, so insightful for me. I'm just at stage choosing first product and then going for trademark. PPC scares me. Thanks for this. So yeah, PPC, my experience is a lot of people come to me when they don't have any clue what they're doing and they've just like thrown up some random PPC campaigns and spent hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars because they don't actually understand how it works. And in my opinion, like understanding PPC is so important. If you're going to use PPC, like you have to know what you're doing. Yeah. And it's not that it's scary. You just have to you just have to learn it. And if you can't, there are actually some people, and I say this like proudly, not proudly, but like I have the balls to say it. There are some people who just shouldn't be doing PPC. Like, do you get what I mean? Like they're not that they're idiots or dumb or whatever but there are some people where they're great. Their strengths are finding amazing products or developing amazing products. Yeah. And it's not keywords and it's not like reading the data. There are some people where it's not. And if you identify yourself as that kind of person, like either hire someone on a VA or someone, or go to an agency that works with newer sellers as well. Yeah. Not seven-figure sellers, because there are some people that need agencies. And then she wrote, most important thing to keep in mind for first PPC campaign. That was another question that she asked. So it'll be interesting for me to hear what you say, and then I'll answer. Destany, most important thing to keep in mind for first PPP. I'm guessing she meant PPC campaign.
I will say when you're starting, to keep things small. Like that is truly the beauty of Amazon. You cannot hemorrhage money. You can start incredibly small and scale as needed, but it's just so different. It's so complex because you have all these different opinions in the space. And I think that's actually the most difficult thing is you have one person saying one thing and another person saying another thing, and everyone has a different perspective and a different reality. But I think the most beautiful thing about Amazon PPC is it's not a black box. If you are on Facebook, it can be a black box because you have copy and a creative, and all of those things are going to affect your output. For PPC, it's not like that at all. A plus B equals C pretty much at all points in time. So I think if I was, starting fresh from the beginning, I would find people you really resonate with in terms of philosophy, and I would dive in and just learn the basics. I would learn like keyword targeting, how it works. I would start one campaign with one keyword and be like, oh, when I increase my bid, I get more impressions. Oh, when I decrease my bid, I get less impressions. Starting to understand those correlations and starting really small is probably one of the most important things to keep in mind, in my opinion.
So my opinion is that the most important thing to keep in mind, I just had it and then it's going through my brain. Hold on. I was like, oh, I have to remember this. So I have buying intent. So for me, what I have found, I was telling you earlier that before I started coaching, I lived in the bubble of my products. And the more accounts, products, like, reports that you see, the more you understand that there isn't, like you said, there's no one way, every single product. But the one thing that doesn't change, in my opinion, is conversion when it comes to buying intent. So when you're first starting out, in my opinion and in my experience, I suggest going after the keywords where the buying intent is to buy exactly your product. Mm-hmm. So if you're selling a terrible product, but I'm just going to use a terrible product idea. If you're selling a, like a pink motivational woman's water bottle, right? So going after a keyword like water bottle or just woman's water bottle is probably going to be way too big for you when there's like thousands of reviews. There's huge brands on those keywords. And this is not a good example, but I'm going to roll with it because it was the example I chose. but going after like a keyword like, motivational, like pink motivational water bottle for women, and you sell a pink water bottle that has a motivational quote on it and it's for women, like the buyer's intent is exactly to buy your product. Yeah. So the way that I have like a 3-tier system of keywords of where I go after keywords in different stages. But I think that, in my opinion, the most important thing to take into consideration when you're starting out is buyer's intent. And also, I've never, you and we're going off subject, and it's only because it's the first time I've actually spoken to you about these types of things. So I'm picking your brain. What is your opinion about auto campaign for products? Because my opinion is, personally, I don't love auto campaigns. Where else when I used to, I'm talking to you 2 years ago. No, I started YouTube 2.5 years ago. Before PPC was the way that it is today, a lot of things have come out since then. You couldn't negative exact a specific product back then. There's many things you couldn't do. You didn't have the different, what do you call it? The substitutes and complements, etc. You didn't have that back then. But anyway, when I first started, I used auto a lot. When I first started YouTube, for my products, it made sense. And then I would start coaching, etc. And I would be like, holy shit, it's coming up with so many keywords that are not related to your product, but you can't not have those keywords in your listing. And then I've started working over the years, it really depends on the product. But many times, auto doesn't make sense to start off with at all for a product, in my opinion. So what is your opinion on auto campaigns for new products? I know you don't work with the small sellers, but taking everything into consideration, what is your opinion on auto campaigns?
Very similar. So I found a way to somewhat do a data study on this. I found 2 incredibly random products on Amazon. It was actually 2 of the exact same products, but it was random. One of the products, is pink star sunglasses, had 5,000 reviews. The other product was the exact same damn product with 0 reviews. And what I did is I created a fake sponsored products campaign, added both of those products. And the one that had 5,000 reviews had amazing suggested keywords in the manual campaign. The exact pink star shape or pink heart shape, whatever I said, sunglasses, precise. The product that had 0 reviews, Amazon suggested me terrible keywords like sunglasses, beach, kids, pink. And that was the data I needed. Amazon does not know your product well enough in the beginning. So what they're going to do if you run an auto campaign is go really, really broad because they're trying to figure out your product. So Amazon's going to show your ad everywhere. And then it's going to be like, oh, this has a high click-through rate. Let's continue showing it here. Oh, this click-through rate's not fantastic. Let's not show it there. So it's going to get better over time. But if you do an auto campaign at launch, you're giving money to Amazon and saying, figure out where my ad needs to show. If you take a product with history, Amazon knows where your ad needs to show because they have all that search term conversion data, all that keyword conversion data. So when I ran that split test, and anyone can do this in your account, you can just add a random ASIN into a manual campaign and kind of split test. Like that was really what was like the proof and the data I needed. That auto campaigns on launch have their place if you have a lot of money and you just want to get impressions. But in the very beginning, if Amazon has no idea what your product is, all they know is your backing keywords, they're going to, cast a really wide net. So I start with manual campaigns from the very beginning because that means I can be very precise. I know exactly where my ad needs to show. I don't need to give money to Amazon to let them show my ad in everywhere and figure it out. And then once I collect data and Amazon knows my product, I'll 100% start auto campaigns.
So I work mostly today with broad campaigns for discovery, where I'm choosing, the seed keyword, as in if it doesn't have, for example, I'm terrible product. Do not sell this terrible product. But let's just say that, like, if I'm selling a pink water bottle, if it doesn't have the word, pink and water bottle in it, it's not going to go after it. So I work a lot more for discovery campaigns with broads, but I'm really strategic about the seed keywords that I pick out. Because I do think that there's so many different opinions on this kind of stuff, but I work with a lot more like manual campaigns today than what I used to. Back in the days, I used to sort of like force my auto campaigns to become like exact campaigns by a lot of negative exacting. But yeah, I had one more question and then I forgot what it was now, but I felt like, remember to ask that question. But until I remember, we didn't speak about search term reports when it comes to sponsored display ads. So maybe we can quickly touch on that.
Not fantastic. We've actually seen them kind of change the reporting for sponsored display a few times. At the end of the day, you have your campaign report, your advertised product report, which is the exact same as every other, and then your targeting report. What sucks about this is if you're running sponsored display category targeting, you can't see what searches, like what ASINs you're showing up on, and then like pull that data to reinvest in. So anyone who's familiar with sponsored products, if you run an auto campaign or any type of product targeting campaign, you can see all those search terms and then reinvest in them. That's why broad is amazing. That's why autos are amazing. As data collection.
As long as they got a click. A lot of people don't know this. That if you didn't get a click, you're not going to see what the search term was.
Yes.
So many people don't know this because a lot of people will go into the dashboard and it will say, for example, 200,000 impressions, and then they'll go into the actual report and there's only 50,000 impressions, and they're like, but why? And people don't know. If you didn't get at least one click on that keyword, you're not going to know what the exact search term was, right? Sorry, continue.
That was a great call out. So on the display side, we only see the targeting. So that's why I recommend product targeting. Again, I can see the data on the specific products that are clicked on, but it also shows you your category just as a whole. Like, here's how you convert on your category targeting. So you can't actually continue to reinvest in that data, which is why I recommend running category targeting and product targeting for sponsored products and sponsored brands. Because if I run category targeting on sponsored products, I can see all those ASINs that I converted on or got clicked on, pull them out of my search term report and put them directly in a sponsored display. Because it's the exact same targeting, but in a better placement, higher up on the page, directly below the buy box.
And then like I said earlier, sometimes you can have all those placements, like display, sponsored brands, sponsored products.
That's a misconception. No, sorry, that sounded like I was actually saying your theory is a misconception. A lot of people will be like, oh, I'm competing, or, oh, I'm running a video ad, so I'm not winning a sponsored product ad. I'm like, that's not how it works. All of the ads are like different. So you want to dominate the page. You want to run sponsored product targeting, sponsored brand product targeting, sponsored display product targeting. Like, that's the true ideal. Some people like, what one converts best? I'm like, well, all of them, if you really want to dominate.
I do think that, like, again, this is I believe, and my theory is, the more real estate you have, especially like, the buying decision is made on a product page, like on a listing page, not on the search page. So the more real estate you can have in general, but the more real estate you can have on a competitor's and also your own, but anyway, on a competitor's product, the better, because number one, it's one less competitor there, right? Like it's one less competitor there. And number two, you're brainwashing the customers. They're seeing you consistently. Subconscious. And not only, and then not only that, also if you have like variation, like if you sell multiple products I'm trying to like not talk about my products. I don't know. You have
like
a water bottle.
Protein. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll go with the water
protein.
Bottle.
Look, I've been using the water bottle example, so we'll go with it. I think it's a terrible product idea, but anyway, let's just say you sell a motivational women's water bottle in pink, and then you sell a water bottle that's got like a sloth on it. And it also is a motivational one. The buyer avatar may be the same thing. And then you've got your display ad is showing one of your products, and then your sponsored ad is showing another. Oh no, you lost me. Am I back?
We're good. We're good.
Okay, cool. It's every time someone calls me because I'm off my thing. Anyway, that was what I was trying to say, is that you definitely should, in my experience, so you show up consistently.
Yep.
Cool. I feel like you may have lost me a few times there.
I got it.
Okay, cool. Tony Sagar said, video ads have been doing well for me, but there's usually only one ad on the page. It can be quite competitive bidding for it sometimes. Anyways, to reduce the cost.
So this is where it gets hard when you have limited ad inventory, right? Because everyone's competing for the exact same placement on the page. So the easiest way to diversify your cost is to bid on longer tail keywords or more keywords. So that's kind of the biggest recommendation I have. Now, Amazon is finding ways to reduce this. We have video ads on the bottom of page 2, page 3, and page 4 now. So that will help. And Amazon's supposed to be releasing video ads that are going to drive to a store page, a landing page. They have been split testing video ads on the product detail page. That's typically for DSP, which makes it kind of, we can assume we're going to get that. Amazon tests things with DSP and big brands who spend money and then lets us do it. So I think that's kind of the biggest way, because at the end of the day, it's like video quality makes a difference in conversion rate and click-through rate. But if you never win that placement in the first place, it doesn't matter how great of quality your video is. So either pay to play or diversify through all of your keyword research, long tail keyword, broad phrase, things like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Catherine said, do you suggest getting help with your PPC campaign for your first product, or is it better to learn by trial and error in the beginning? So I'm going to answer that one, and you can. Trial and error can be very, very expensive, right? I believe in trial and error when you've strategically chosen where you're going to place your trial and error. So I'll give an example. Remember how I said initially that I really target like buying intent, but buying intent is very important. And sometimes you may sell a product. I don't know if anyone else does the stuff that I do, because I don't really keep updated. But if you sell a product, for example, that can be sold both to two different, it's got two different purposes, the product, okay? I will trial and error the two different purposes also to see for what are people buying the product more for this purpose or for this purpose. Or I will try different keywords, but at different stages, depending on how, I'm going to be able to convert on that. So in my opinion, trial and error is important, but it has to be strategic. You can't just be like, oh, I'm just going to throw $1,000 at everything, and then whatever will happen, unless you have a lot of money and you don't care about it. But that's my opinion. I think that it's not about getting the help. It's more of understanding and learning the PPC, which can be really confusing when you listen to a million different people, because we all have different opinions. What do you think about that?
I agree. I would never recommend outsourcing to something you don't even lightly fundamentally understand. Yeah. Even as an agency, like the people who come to us, even if they're doing, millions a month, they don't understand PPC. It's like high friction because they don't understand the value we're driving. They think that things need to be done kind of a certain way. So I always recommend like understanding it fundamentally. I would never fully outsource from the beginning. And as mentioned, if you have the money to play, it's, an expensive learning curve, but you can learn it from a lot of trial and error. But I think I would probably, again, find people that you resonate with, follow them extensively, test on really small budgets, and start understanding kind of correlations and data.
Yeah, I would agree. We'll go with this last thing and then we'll wrap it up because we've been on for a long time and I know you're very, very busy and I also have a child to put to bed. So thanks, ladies. Feeling braver regarding PPC. Love the encouragement to use manual campaigns. Well, there's another big thing that just came out. Okay. The encouragement to use manual campaigns because I best know my product. Ready to punch the blow up bag between sips from my pink motivational water bottle. This has been great. Awesome. Let me just quickly go through. There's one more question, but it's really long and we have to wrap it up. So maybe if you see it later, you can answer it, Destany, or I'll answer it a little bit later. Destany, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to connecting with you more. And if anyone wants to reach out to you, how can they find you?
Check me out on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. Ask me any questions and I will try to help out.
What is your YouTube for people that?
Good question. BetterAMS. BetterAMS YouTube.
Cool.
That was needed for sure.
I asked this because it can be confusing. You've got your name and then you've got the company. I would, if anyone also wants to check out my YouTube channel, I have a whole bunch of free PPC videos as well on my YouTube channel, which is Sharon Evan. Thank you so much, Destany, for coming on. Isabella, who you just had lunch with, I think yesterday, will be back on Monday. And then Danny will be back on Tuesday. And I'll be back on next Thursday as usual. Have a great weekend, everyone. And I will see you next Thursday. Bye. Thanks, Destany.